Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this hearing. By the way, I am a happy customer. This weekend, I flew from Baltimore to Providence for a family wedding and back from Providence to Baltimore. And all of the TSA people we encountered were professional and courteous and treated people with respect, and we thank you for that, because that has not always been the case. And barking orders and treating people like cattle is not the way to get compliance. We can be civil, and my experience this weekend was big improvement, so thank you. Administrator Pekoski, you were confirmed by the Senate to serve as the administrator of TSA, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But in February of this year, you were tapped to fill in for the vacant position of Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, is that right?
It was April 11th, sir.
But you were tapped to do that?
Yes, I'm actually the senior official performing the duties of the Deputy Secretary.
So do you have two part-time jobs?
I have two jobs, yes, sir.
You have two jobs?
Neither of which is part-time.
So you're trying to do both?
I'm doing both positions. I'm still the administrator of TSA, but I have a very, very strong team at TSA.
I'm focused on what you were confirmed for and what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
All that.
Confirmed as a TSA
So
administrator.
do you have a timeline for when you might return to your full-time confirmed position at TSA?
No, sir, no timeline. I serve at the pleasure of the Secretary.
And my understanding is that at TSA, acting TSA Deputy Administrator Cogswell is undertaking many of the responsibilities of de facto administrator while you're doing your job at Homeland Security. Is that correct?
The day-to-day running of the agency is under Acting Administrator Cogswell's cognizance with a written agreement between she and I. There are certain things that I've reserved for decisions myself, and there are certain things that I've asked to be informed before decisions are made.
Seems to be a problem in this administration. Mr. Johnson, any views on that? I mean, isn't it, at least from a management org chart, isn't it preferable to have Mr. Pekoski full-time committed to the job he was confirmed for?
Well, I'll just refer to some of the past work GAO's done looking at high-risk issues. Particularly, we talked about the DHS staffing issues, and they're having the right staff in the right place at the right time. It's always good to have someone in a position to be that leader. Whether or not someone acting in a capacity and not acting can do the same job. Ultimately, we would like to see a leader in place that's confirmed or someone that's in a position full-time.
Especially with an agency that is hardly without problems and challenges. It's a hard job. I mean, it's really a hard job. I mean, 440 airports, 2 million daily passengers screened, 5.5 million carry-on items, and 1.4 million check bags daily. I mean, that's, and the stress of make sure nothing gets through. No bad guy gets through. So full-time and attention, it seems to me, is required and absolutely desirable. To your point, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Baumgartner, let me ask you, the ranking member talked about the crisis at the border. Of course, for some of us, the crisis is children die there because of neglect and the conditions under which people are being held. But is it, I guess it seems counterintuitive that we would actually use TSA people to go down to the border. What is it they're going to do down there? What is the expertise they bring to the border, to protecting or securing the border?
Yeah, I think the administrator is best in a position to answer that.
Mr. Pekoski, what is the expertise TSA personnel bring? And does this, given the volume and the challenges you face, doesn't it take away from your mission? I mean, doesn't it kind of dilute your ability to do your job?
Sir, it doesn't take away at all at this point from our security mission. We have a relatively small number given the size of TSA, 63,000 people, and we have a total of 350 or 400 people assigned to Southwest Border Operations. So that percentage cannot possibly affect, in my view, the provision of security.
What about, I'm sorry, I'm going to run out of time. What about the proposed diversion of $232 million from your budget to border operations? Did we give you $232 million extra? Did we make a mistake? We overestimated your budget because you didn't need $225 million almost?
No, and every agency needs the resources that they've been appropriated, but we do have an emergency supplemental for humanitarian purposes that's been up here for 6 weeks that will address a lot of the issues at the southwest border, and I would urge consideration and passage of that supplemental.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my time is up, but I sure would love to get Mr. Johnson, Mr. Baumgartner's take on that, if you will allow it. I mean,
Your time has expired, but they may answer it.
I thank the chair.
I would agree with Mr. Johnson. It is a complex organization. I don't have anything further to add to that.
Johnson, do you have
Yeah, and
any-
in terms of, obviously, the budget decisions are for the administration and the agency to make those determinations, Congress to make that decision. I would like to note, though, that we've looked at in the past TSA staffing model for its TSOs, and there was a shortfall or gap there in terms of what was really needed based on that staffing model.
Thank you very much, Mr. Higgins.